Have you ever driven past a gas station and wondered, what is that place actually worth? It seems pretty straightforward, right? But it turns out valuing a gas station is one of the trickiest things in the business world. So today, we're going to break it all down.
Okay, so what's the real number? I mean, you'd think it's all about how many cars pull in and the price on the sign. But the real value, well, it's kind of hidden in plain sight. And trust me, it's way more than just the gas.
All right, here's the big secret. A gas station isn't just one business. It's really a whole bunch of businesses all crammed onto one piece of property. And there's this huge hidden risk literally buried right under your feet.
So let's just get the idea of a single business out of our heads. A modern gas station is really a mix of what we call profit centers, and every single one of them is critical to figuring out the final price tag.
Okay, first up, the obvious one, the fuel. This is the core of the whole thing, right? It's all about selling a ton of gas and diesel. This is what gets people to pull off the road in the first place.
But you want to know where the real money is made? It's usually inside, in the convenience store, the C-store. See, the profit margins on gas are incredibly thin, sometimes just pennies a gallon. But the markup on a soda, a bag of chips, or a lottery ticket, it's huge. Honestly, the store is often the most profitable part of the entire operation.
And then you've got all the extras. Maybe there's a car wash attached, or a little fast food counter, or even a couple of repair bays. Every single one of these is another stream of cash, and they all add up, boosting that final valuation.
The real magic is how they all work together. Think about it. The cheap gas is the bait. It gets you to stop. But it's the high-profit stuff like the coffee and the car wash that really brings in the cash. So to get the true value, you have to look at every single piece of this puzzle. All right, so we get the different parts, but how do you actually slap a dollar amount on all of it? Let's dive into how the pros, the appraisers, actually measure the financial engine of a gas station.
For a business like this, the magic number is something called Seller's Discretionary Earnings, or SDE. Now just think of SDE as the real cash flow the owner gets. It's not just the profit on the books. You have to add back the owner's salary, maybe a car lease, or other personal perks they run through the company. It's the total amount of money the owner actually gets from owning the place.
And believe it or not, the basic formula is pretty simple. First, you calculate that annual SDE we just talked about. Then, you multiply it by what's called an industry multiple. That's basically just a number that reflects what similar gas stations have sold for recently.
So let's see how this works with some real numbers. Take a smaller station, making about $180,000 in SDE. It might get a multiple of, say, 3.5. That puts its value right around $628,000. But now look at a big station, one pulling in $800,000 in SDE. Not only is the earnings number way bigger, but the multiple is higher too, and that's when the value just explodes.
Yeah, that's right. Over $3.5 million. That's what a really successful gas station business can be worth. But hold on, we're not finished. That's still just one piece of the puzzle. Because there's this enormous risk we haven't even talked about yet. It's totally invisible, it can cost a fortune to fix, and it's literally buried in the ground. Yep, I'm talking about environmental liability.
And this quote, this says everything you need to know. Because of some really serious laws, a new buyer can be held responsible for cleaning up all the contamination, even if it happened decades before they ever showed up. The law basically says you own it now. It's your problem.
So what's causing this mess? It's almost always the leaking underground storage tanks, the USTs. I mean, these are huge steel tanks holding thousands of gallons of gasoline. Over the years, they rust, they corrode, they start to leak. And that fuel just soaks into the ground, gets into the water table. It's an absolute nightmare that can easily cost millions of dollars to clean up. So, if you're a buyer, how do you keep from buying a toxic disaster? Well, it's a two-step dance. First is a Phase 1 assessment. Think of this like doing a background check on the property. You're digging through old records, looking for any warning signs. If that turns up anything spooky, you move on to a Phase 2. This is like a full-blown medical exam for the land. They bring in drills, take soil and water samples, and find out for sure if there's contamination and just how bad it is.
Okay, we've talked about the different ways they make money, we've looked at the math, and we've definitely covered the risks. So now, let's pull it all together and walk through a real-world case study. All right, let's look at this one station in Los Angeles. On paper, its net income is $160,000 a year. But the owner also pays for $140,000 of his personal stuff through the business. So we add those two together and we get the real number, the SDE, $300,000. You apply a pretty standard 4x multiple to that and bam,
The business itself is valued at $1.2 million.
But wait, that's not the final asking price. Remember, there are two big pieces here. The business operation is worth $1.2 million, sure. But the land and the building, the real estate, that's worth a whole separate $2 million. You've got to add them together. So the total price tag for the whole shebang is $3.2 million. That's the full picture.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground. Let's boil it all down. What are the absolute key things that drive a gas station's value?
It really comes down to this. First, how well are all the profit centers doing? The fuel, the store, everything else. Second, what's that true cash flow, the SDE? Third, what's the actual real estate worth? Fourth, what do those environmental reports say? Is the land clean? And finally, you have other things like the brand of gas you're selling and the terms of your lease.
So there you have it. That's kind of the playbook for valuing a gas station right now. But it leaves you with a huge question, doesn't it? As more and more electric cars hit the road, what happens then? Will these corners become high-speed charging centers, little community hubs, something totally different? What the gas station of the future even is, well, that's a wide-open question. And so is what it'll be worth.